Good day, everybody. My name is Sam Shihab with the law firm of Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke from that very same place.
Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, a little bit different approach to changes in immigration law. Bad immigration news put in perspective. So there's a lot of people are talking about a lot of things happening that's negative, and we want to just kind of take a common sense approach to all of them and talk about what really we should worry about and what really should we not worry about, Brian.
Yeah.
Because some of it can be bad news, and some of it could be just a lot of smoke.
Yeah, I guess, bad news for sure. Our topic is bad immigration news, but it's, what should you really be concerned about? What aspect of it do you have to worry about it? I guess this is sort of our positive spin on the news. Don't buy into, the gloom and doom. Everything's going to happen. Everything awful is going to happen to everybody, sort of thing.
Yes. And before we go anywhere, we're going to go into our immigrationquestions.us.
We have a button for that. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, look good. Yeah, immigrationquestions.us. This is the portal where we are taking questions in advance. You can put them on the portal, and we will answer them very first at the very beginning of our every week presentation. We have a couple of them here, and one of them says, "Hi Sam, does a green card holder needs to carry the physical green card at the time in their position, or a copy of the green card is enough?"
Yeah.
You have to have an evidence.
Yeah.
Evidence of your permanent resident status.
Yeah, very, very relevant to one of the topics we're hitting today, for sure.
Yeah.
And basically, anybody, and that can be, like you suggested last week, a copy of a green card, right?
Yeah. So you have a. So do you have to carry the original or a copy, Brian?
Well, I'm just thinking about the registration requirement, and the registration requirement says evidence that you are registered. So these things are developing.
But not registered. Do you have a copy of your green card?
Well, having looked into that, there's ways to read it to say that you should, but it seems absolutely, what's the term I want? Crazy to do it, because all it takes is for that to fall out of your pocket or fall out of your wallet or purse.
And it takes a year to replace.
Yeah, and then in the meantime you cannot work. Or get a new job.
I would make a good copy and write on a copy, make a color copy of it, laminate it, put it in your wallet, and I would be comfortable with that approach.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I mean, until we hear otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Sam, I guess we have other news we got to talk about here.
That was the second question we had on immigrationquestions.us.
Oh yeah, what else you got?
What do you make of the India EB5 retrogression? So this is a big retrogression that happened. That's the second question we have on immigrationquestions.us, and that's going to be a good segue to talk about the visa bulletin, because the visa bulletin just got released and somebody just got in and just be able to snuck in a question here real quick on us. If you see here that under EB5, there is almost a 3-year retrogression for India.
In terms of final action dates?
In terms of final action date.
Yeah. So let's see here. So okay. Yeah, I see it.
And the question is, what do you make of that? Wow, that's in the unreserved. So it goes back to final action dates go from March and January 2022. Second to 2019.
Wowzers! Sorry, I can't resist going to the Department of State website and just viewing the visa bulletin here right quick.
Yeah.
So April, and it goes back to. Clearly, you've had them time to look at it a little bit better than me. Wow. Yeah, that's 3 years. Okay.
Yeah. So what do you make up of that? And that's right here on your notation.
Yeah.
I
still wanted to see it on the chart.
Yeah. I'm glad you're crossing the T and dotting the I.
Well, okay. So if we're gonna.
So that's one of the questions from immigrationquestions.us.
Okay. So this is good. This is good about talking. It's good. It goes well with our topic of putting bad immigration news in perspective. Yeah. So the back time for EB5 unreserved areas for India has always been a problem. And the bottom line is, anytime we've had an India EB-5 client, is we're going to recommend, if at all possible, to steer them away from that category.
Yeah.
Because if you find yourself in a rural area or a high unemployment area, visas available
now. Well, now is 5 years.
Yeah, because the processing time for an EB-5 case is atrocious. Which, Sam, do we? So there is that. Yeah.
So what do you make of that change? I mean, obviously, China was first.
Yeah.
So China also retrogressed
quite
from
a bit.
2016, which is a long time, back to 2015. Also went back 1 year and 3 months and 14 days.
Yeah.
So that's a big retrogression as well for China. But China has suffered from that for many years.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the fact that there is more supply. More demand than supply.
Yeah.
And India is catching on with that. India has been the latecomer to fluency, if you will. Their success, Chinese have made money with manufacturing, so a lot of people have money, and they started doing this EB-5 immigration long before the Indian population did.
Now, Sam, I have if we're talking about what do you make of it, I think the inevitable question is, there's a news item we haven't talked about yet. Donald Trump, I think it was last week, saying, we're getting rid of the EB-5 program. It's a mess. We're going to replace it with, the gold card. Do you think that idea has any sort of relationship to this?
No, it has not.
I don't think so.
Not in my opinion.
It seems like an inevitable question.
Not only that, but I just don't see the American Express card is a possibility in the foreseeable future.
You mean that proposed $5 million gold card? Well, I guess my take on that is, because if we're talking about takes on EB-5, I may as well put these in here. To get rid of the EB-5 program, the regional center program sunsets. That goes away automatically under the law, because I looked into this when they made that announcement.
They renew it every 2 years.
Well, they may not review it this time if the president says, I don't want it renewed. And also, he would be required to sign that law, right? Now, the regular EB-5 program, the direct investment program, they're required to change the law to get rid of that program. So that's, I guess you don't have to panic about the EB-5 program yet. I think it's good through 2027 right now, too, the regional center program. So, yeah.
But not only that, but also you have to change the visa allocation numbers to make it immediately available.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's thinking about, you give me $5 million, I'm going to give you a green card in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess the point is, so I'm talking about, to get rid of the EB-5 program as it is right now, you have to change the law, which requires a massive effort to do. And to make that program real, you have to change the law.
So it's not realistic.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about EB-5 overall right now. The only thing that worries me about EB-5 is what you mentioned earlier. It's, it says current on here, but it takes them 5 years to process a silly EB-5 case.
So just if you want to get your questions up front before everybody else, just drop it during the week in immigrationquestions.us. It's a simple portal that we own. And it's designed to just take questions throughout the week to encourage you to get your questions in earlier, and we will get the answers back to you earlier. Let's put it that way. That makes it
immigrationquestions.us. Goodbye, banner. Goodbye.
Yep.
There we are.
So, Brian, let's go through the final action date movement for April, since we have gotten some movement and also in immediate release. So EB1, final action date, no change.
Yeah.
Okay? Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
All right. The EB2, again, India moved forward 1 month, and that's nice for India, and it's the most forward movement, which is, again, confusing.
See, I think there might be something off with our chart here, Sam, because I'm seeing for India EB1 for March, the final action dates are 1st of February 2022, right? And for April is 15th of February 22. We did get some movement on there. There appears to be maybe something that shifted off in our chart.
In the typo. Okay.
Yeah. So okay. I shall not rely on the chart any further.
Okay.
But so there's that. So EB1, trying to stay the same.
On the action date, yeah.
India final action date moves 2 weeks. Right.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
EB2.
Yep.
for the record, EB1 current for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
March. Let's see here. Rest of the world, EB2 is 15th of May 2023.
Yes.
And 22nd of June 2023. Get a little bit of movement there.
Yes. Yeah. And then you got China is May 8th. Is that what you get?
China was it May 8th?
Yeah.
And then it moved until
May
1st of October 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good movement there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. India EB2, December 21st of December 2012. A little bit of movement, about a month to January 1st, 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good 1 month movement.
Yeah.
So jumping to EB3,
Yeah.
again, this is really interesting because
Goes from December 2022 until 1st of January 2023. So 1 month, exactly.
Yep.
China from August 2020 to November 2020. Not so bad. About August,
3 months.
September, October, November. Yeah, 3 months.
And then a good movement also for India from
Let's see here.
February 1st.
February 1st, 2013, all the way to April 1st, 2013.
And that's a 2 months movement.
Not too shabby. Yeah, I can take that.
And that's EB3.
Yeah.
So EB3 India moved forward 2 months, and China moved forward 3 months in the EB3.
Yeah.
Again, shocks me. More movement forward for EB3 than EB2.
Yeah.
EB2, China moved 1 week. EB2, India moved 1 month. And that is less movement than EB3.
Yeah, I don't.
It continues to move forward faster.
Well, Sam, I'll put that in perspective real quick. I've been doing. I'm coming dangerously close to my 14-year anniversary. Dangerously close to my 14-year anniversary of being an immigration attorney. And there's a common, question every time I've done a labor certification, and that's hundreds of thousands of them at this point. Thousands, yeah. Hey, what category is it going to be in? Is it EB2? It better be an EB2. I hope it's an EB2. Everybody's in the EB2 category. Most people from India are in the EB2 category. So many people from India come to the United States with a bachelor's degree from India and then come to the United States for the first time on a student visa to get a master's degree. Very common trajectory. So the bottom line for me is a lot of those people are going to eventually downgrade to, it's a funny thing though. I'm saying they're going to eventually downgrade to EB3 to get those green cards, but you would think that would move them closer together.
But they're not far apart. They're just moving more. I mean, the differential in movement is little, but enough to annoy you.
Yeah. Why should I be irritated about this?
So
though?
for example, the dates, final action date for India, EB3 is April 2013, April 1st. Not much behind it. It's January 2013 for EB2. A couple months. Yeah. It's not a lot, but enough to irritate you because, but here's the thing.
In a universe where the sky is supposed to be blue, up is up, down is down, it just doesn't seem right. What can I say?
Yeah. But the reality of the matter is, even employability, if you have more experience, you're more employable. Yeah. And therefore, the employer is willing to apply for a green card. Yeah. So it's just that.
Oh, that's a very good point, though. Yeah.
So that's basically what's happening now. If I go back 20 years ago, Brian, or 25 years ago. There were more EB3 cases. Yeah, there were more EB3 cases.
Why do you think that is?
I think.
I mean, just in the course of just thinking about it, I'm doing less EB.
I think the whole world is changing. I mean, there were less master's degree graduate. There were less highly, people were willing to hire people at that little bit lower level. Now the world is becoming more competitive. More master's degree graduates, and more people have more experience. And
yeah, that's a very good point, and I think I'm going to do something that I rarely do, and give Donald Trump, our president, a little bit of credit here. So basically, this program, this policy has been in place. The visa bulletin, as we know, of the EB2, EB3 categories have been in place for the last, since 1990, right? And the world has changed a lot since then. And if I'm going to have to agree with something that Donald Trump says in terms of the EB5 program. It is a little bit outdated because the investment numbers for those have been in place since 1990 as well. What?
We're driving a 1995 Chevy.
Yeah.
The entire immigration system.
I like old cars, Sam. This is a bad metaphor. Bad metaphor.
But it's not fast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at speed,
Yeah.
it's not fast.
Yeah.
It is
So
an old machine.
Yeah, yeah.
Every aspect of our immigration
It's
system
ancient, yeah.
is ancient,
Well,
including the EB5.
Well, yeah, but think of it though. What was a million? It was essentially $1 million investment when the program was created, and that was in like 1990. It's still essentially $1 million investment.
So when it all
And
started,
I'm going to give him credit on that. It's in terms of like somebody doing lobbying somewhere, keeping that number from going up with inflation to a reasonable degree has fundamentally changed. EB5 is more accessible now than it's ever been with just the concept of inflation.
right? But although our listeners are not interested in history, listen. But here's a 1 minute of it.
Okay.
When the EB5 program was first created, it was completely rejected by everybody. It was never. It was always
People
current.
weren't using it.
People weren't interested in it
Yeah.
because it was at that time too high, too expensive.
Yeah.
And there were other options that are a lot cheaper, like in Canada and other places. So people were not interested in that, and it stayed for a long time. A program everybody said, "Are you crazy? $1 million?" Back a long time ago, and then it kind of crisscrossed. It continued to be cheap, and then as inflation came, and then people
caught up, yeah.
It caught up, and now it crossed.
Yeah.
And as it crossed, it's still now you can't get into it because it's just not enough of it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's a flip problem.
It's an interesting thing to think about, I guess. I mean, I like the EB5. Well, I think my EB5 is always my last resort for immigration because it's slow. I mean, again, 5 years to process a case is a nightmare. But it's a fun, interesting thing to think about. It's that in terms of like the best immigration deal on the U.S. menu, in terms of they haven't raised the menu price on that one in the last 30 years. It's that. It's
done talking about visa bulletin. Talk about bad news. So the travel ban 2.0. So what's going on with that, Brian?
So travel ban 2.0 is coming. So, well, at least we think it's coming. So for those who aren't aware, there's an executive order out there from day one of the presidency that says, that's called Protecting the U.S. from Foreign Terrorist or Other National Security and Public Safety Threats, and that's what it's called, right? And they directed agencies, the president directed agencies to vet and screen maximum degree possible all aliens who intend to be admitted, yada, 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 right? And they basically, on that report, is say, hey, maybe you guys should consider countries which the information we get is non-existent or so bad that maybe we should consider severely restricting or limiting visas to those countries, altogether. And so basically, there's news on the list last time was originally the Muslim ban, and now they're putting this out there to basically sort of find a justification for a new travel ban, right? And the countries on the first list were Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Yemen. And there were subsequent ones for Chad, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, Nigeria, North Korea, Tanzania, Venezuela, and apparently there's news running around there that Pakistan and Afghanistan could also be on the list.
So these countries right here are countries in the previous 1.0 or the 2.0?
That's the 1.0.
Yeah. Okay, so the 2.0 is focusing on Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well,
how in the heck is not going with Libya, Syria, Somalia, Sudan?
Well, they're going to be on that list as well, I think, which is maybe more. As I sort of understand the executive order, they're going to be picking on countries where we think the government is such a mess there, where we don't have any sort of relationship with them, or the government doesn't really exist, such that we say, we don't have anything about your people. How can we give visas to your people if you can't give us any sort of information or security about them?
So is that going to be for everybody, or is this like male between certain ages, or children are not allowed?
I mean, that's the sort of thing that scares me, because we do visas for children of U.S. citizens. So,
right.
So I guess we don't know until that that inevitable order comes in. So putting that in perspective, most people in our audience probably aren't. We do a lot of employment immigration in our office. Most people in our audience are here employment-based visas, and meaning they're not likely to be caught up in that. But what did that travel ban do, everybody? Caused massive confusion, caused delays everywhere, and that's, so I guess maybe people in our audience don't have to worry about that too much.
But
right?
some people do.
Well, yeah, some people.
And those people who are affected by it, it's a real impact.
Yeah.
And it's a real problem.
Yeah.
For them. There's no question about that, especially children of U.S. citizens who are trapped. I'm just about to start a case for 5 children from Nigeria,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
These people are
Yeah.
going to be affected. So it'll be interesting to see if there's, last time there was some exceptions built into the system. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, unfortunately, more work for lawyers and more worry for the public out there.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I'm worried about Somalia. There's a large Somali community in Columbus, and nice folks. We help them sponsor their family members, and I'm worried about the consulate's ability to actually issue visas in the future. So next one on the list is the alien registration requirement.
Yes.
So on the USCIS website, they have this page. I believe it's, if you do a Google search, I'm going to do it right now, just so USCIS registration. Let's see if I can find the link to it. Here we are, alien registration requirement. And I'm going to go so far as to even put that in the chat so you all can read it, because, in case you haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure they have.
Probably so, but we're news a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, they said, hey, we're going to add a registration requirement for everybody who is, who's it for?
Above the age of 18.
Above the age of 14. Age of 14. But, oh, holy baloney, Brian, do I have to go do something right now? And, the thing is, what most people should know, most people are registered already. If you're a lawful permanent resident, you're registered. If you're paroled to the U.S., you're registered. If you have an I-94, even if it's expired, you're registered. If you have been issued an immigrant or non-immigrant visa, you are registered. If you issued an EAD, you are registered. But on your slide there, Sam, you have the sort of people who fall into that great big, hole there. So basically, a lot of people don't have to worry about registry, but it's people, the 14th birthday sort of rule. Any non-citizen, whether previously registered or not, who turns 14 in the U.S. must register within 30 days of his or her 14th birthday.
And they haven't even created the system yet.
Yeah, if you go to, so those of you who've gone to the registration link, it basically says, you get to the how to register part, and DHS will soon announce a form and process for aliens to complete the registration requirement, and you should create a USCIS online account to do it. So, hold on tight, but most people are registered. That's good. It seems really kind of silly for to have the 14-year-old registration requirement, because, well, it just does.
Well, the fact that this form is not available, Brian, tells me that this is a low priority for them.
Yeah.
They're not worried about 14-year-old becoming 15-year-old immediately. They will you'll get it in the next few months, probably. But speaking of forms, and something that's probably we have kind of dealt with, but not on our immediate list, is last week USCIS dropped a form at midnight.
Oh yeah.
Bunch of forms at midnight, and they said they're effective immediately, and we had cases that went out.
Yeah. So to give you an idea, anybody's not aware, every time USCIS publishes a form, it has an edition date. And usually when they put out a new version of the form, they'll say, hey, this is the January 27th, 2025 version of it, and we're only going to accept this, we're only going to accept the old version until 3 weeks after we introduce this new one, meaning if you're going to file a case after that, you got to use the new version of the form. And we deal with that. It's a painful part of our job. Sometimes we have a case drafted and ready to go, and then USCIS drops a new form. We have to go and print off a new form. But what they did is, again, sometime in the middle of the day on March 3rd, was it at midnight? I don't know.
I don't know. It looks like a midnight drop.
I don't know. I was reviewing cases on the 3rd. And
adjustment of status forms.
Yeah, adjustment of status forms. And they said, in the middle of the damn day, excuse my language, hey, Brian, that form you just sent out, it expired right after you put it in the mail. Absolutely crazy, yeah.
So they basically gave zero notice, and they had no problem doing that. And the changes are political. Yeah. So they removed the gender identification that's not a male or female in the form. So it's all politics. It's nothing substantive. Yeah. And gave zero time, which means that these cases were going to be rejected and sent back.
We've got some panic calls from people, but perspective.
Yeah. So then the American Immigration Lawyer Association sued, as I knew they will. It's a no-brainer. Basically, they got caught. They got caught with their pants down. Sorry to say it that way.
No. You're fine. I'm talking about people calling and panicking. You know, I'm the guy who I know they're going to do that as well.
You called me in panic. What did I tell you?
I said, Sam, they just like this is probably I sent you an email like 10 o'clock at
night.
Yeah, at night, and I know the answer is going to be that because there's nothing we can do about it. Nobody can expect us to catch these things before they publish.
I told you it's not going to fly.
I know, but
it's not going to fly.
I worry about the people.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's a new good news, bad news.
Yeah.
However you want to say it.
You know, the bad news is they do this to people. The good news is that when they get sued, lawsuits work. You know, and Ayla sued.
Sometimes works, yeah.
Well, Ayla sued, and they fold it faster than, I don't know, something that folds really, really fast on that one.
Yeah. So the other thing, Brian, about the registration that we haven't talked about is the 10 million undocumented. You know, not registering is a crime.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So now you have these 10 million people who are undocumented in this country, 10 to 15 million. Some people say it's 8 million. I have no count. I don't know.
Maybe they'll have a better number if everybody registers.
But nobody's going to register.
Yeah. Well,
so all these people now have become criminal.
Yeah. Well, and
subject to arrest.
Yep.
And if he's interested in deporting criminals, he has to deport all of them because all of them have become criminal because nobody's going to come forward and register because.
Yeah, and if we're a bunch of immigration attorneys here, somebody says, Brian, do I have to register? The answer is, the only answer I can give is yes. I can't sit around here and advise
this is what the law says.
Advise you to break the law. But it's the other side of people are going to be rightfully scared that, you know, if when I register, they're going to have my address and they know I'm undocumented, that they're just going to come knock on my door and pick me up. Yeah. You know?
Dropbox eligibility.
Oh man, this is a bummer. Back, you know, they extended Dropbox eligibility for Dropbox visa stamping in a lot of countries to 48 months, right? And basically down back to 12 months for most countries. I believe India is on that list as well. You know, bottom line is Dropbox is really nice. It's saved people a lot of worry about going to visa stamping appointments and basically kept things moving faster. And, you know, if I'm going to choose something to worry about for the average person that we deal with in the land of employment immigration, it's going to be this. It's, you know, yeah, you can leave the United States, but if you need to get a visa appointment, I expect it to get worse because there's one, decreased Dropbox availability, and second, it's hiring freezes and what happened to the Department of State last time with the Donald Trump administration. It's, you know, they got slow. They got painfully slow dealing with I try to that 4 years I try to block out for, you know, in terms of, you know, immigration history. But if I think back, it's, oh yeah, we had big problems of getting stamping appointments at the consulate. You know, months and months and months of waiting. And so, I mean, perspective is great if you have an advanced parole. You can use that, but you know, it's really going to kind of chill people's ability to travel. I mean, this is something that's maybe doesn't get the big headlines, but for the average person out there, that's something that it makes me go, oh boy. You know, heaven forbid you have an emergency travel scenario where you got to leave and you haven't scheduled your appointment, you know, 3 months. You know, the processing times haven't gotten bad yet, but again, the pieces seem to be moving into place for that to sort of be happening.
Notice to appear. Notice to appear. So what is a notice to appear?
Okay, so a notice to appear, and I sincerely hope that nobody in our audience knows this, is the official document that starts removal proceedings for somebody in the United States. It's basically a notice to appear in immigration court because we think you're eligible to be removed from the country.
It's a court complaint.
Yeah.
Against the person that you need to leave the country.
Yeah.
And the problem with it, if somebody receives it, it takes all your paperwork outside USCIS, and it has to go through the court. Yeah. Because once you're in court, you really cannot use USCIS. That's the law. Yeah. You either be in the court or you're with USCIS. And there is a memo that went out that says any denial of any benefit.
More or less, yeah. That we're going to start issuing notices to appear when we deny a benefit and we think you're think you're removable.
But they cannot do that, for example, for a denied H-1B because there's a grace period.
Well, this is a very, well, it depends. I mean, what if your I-94 is expired? You know, your I-94 is expired.
So you have to go through a legal process to leave the country. So you cannot just pick up and leave the country. Before, you get, let's assume, God forbid, you get a denial and you don't have an adjustment pending. And then you get an H-1B denial. We file a new one. They'll say, go to the consulate, just fly, go to the consulate, get stamped, and come back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cannot do that now. If they follow through, because it's not clear whether they're following through. I doubt that they will because the system it's not possible. I mean, it's not possible to do that.
So they put out on February 28th, 2025, a policy memorandum that says, hey, we're going to start issuing notice to appears in all these scenarios. So in terms of our employment-based audience, here's something that makes it a little bit less scary. I'm going to find the right portion of it. It's basically sort of, here's why we're not going to do it for I-129 scenarios, the common for H-1B. I'm going to see if I can find it on the page here to read it out for everybody.
Right.
Come on, it's not going to allow me to search it. But somewhere in this policy statement, it's going to say, let me see here, implementation, no. Here are beneficiaries of certain employment-based petitions. USCIS will issue, they're talking about I-129s, USCIS will issue an NTA to removable aliens who's the beneficiary of an employment-based petition where the decision in the petition is unfavorable, the beneficiary is not lawfully present in the United States, and the beneficiary is the signatory on the petition for the I-129. So that's...
Put that on the screen.
I'm not sure I can do that very easily at the moment. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can without.
So basically, because as you're trying to do that, Brian, basically because the H-1B petition, you did not sign that, and there is a denial. That is an exception that they have built into that allows you to not be in deportation.
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let me see if I can change the the browser window I'm showing here. You guys are seeing me do it live.
Good. So in the event there is an H-4 petition that was denied,
that's something entirely different.
That renders somebody who is out of status, that memo does not protect that person.
Yeah.
So the H-4 denial is problematic. The B visa, the change of status from H-1B to a B visa, for example, if you have, if you run out of status, even though you may be in a grace period, Brian, that triggers that.
Yeah.
So even though you could be in the grace period,
well, I guess,
and that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
it kind of conflicts with the law.
So I got it up on the screen here. It's hard to maybe I got to scroll this window a bit here. Yeah, it's good enough, easy enough to read here. Yeah, USCIS right here. So what they're saying is it won't apply to people who aren't the signatory now, and everybody's employers, or most everybody on H-1B status is a signatory. So the
H-1Bs are okay.
Yeah.
That's the good news. The L visas are okay.
Yeah.
That's a good news.
I mean,
but E visas are not okay.
Yeah. I guess the big picture for me is usually, in my estimation, the officers who make decisions on these cases, on so many cases, do not have the means or the substantive knowledge to make the determination that somebody is, unlawfully present in the United States is where I would leave it.
It doesn't matter because
all
the notice to appear says that one, your visa is expired. 2, you're a foreign national. 3, we claim that you are here without status. Please appear before the judge and explain to them why we're wrong. That's all what a notice to appear says.
Sounds like a great place for employment-based immigration attorneys to flex some knowledge in immigration court, I guess.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden your legal expense goes through the roof, and your stress level is through the roof, and your options becomes more limited. So that's but the good news. So put this in perspective, Brian.
Yeah.
As our title says, put in perspective.
Yeah.
It does not really impact employment base very much.
Yeah. Well, I have some more perspective. As our colleague Joe Morhart is happy to tell me every time I bring up this thing, saying, Brian, they tried to do that last time. And they didn't. They put out a policy last time. When I was doing the Google search here, I stumbled across that back from 2021. They didn't implement it. And I was just having this conversation with Joe that to actually, there are tons and piles and armies of officers who make decisions on cases. Mm-hmm. To actually force them to do this requires people to enforce that policy. I mean, people want to keep their jobs, but I mean, you essentially, you are changing the fundamental nature of their work so much and creating, I mean, the work that they will create, Sam, if you want to be able to ever deport anybody, again, the immigration courts will be so incredibly bogged down with frivolous, silly removals.
One more minute on this topic so we can go take questions.
Yeah, please stop me from talking.
Further visa delays.
Yeah.
So the United States plans to close some European consulates.
Yeah.
And cut State Department workforce.
Yeah,
But they're not closing, like, they're closing the one in Bordeaux.
Yeah.
So there's 2 consulates in France they're closing, but not the one in Paris.
Yeah.
Thank God. But when is that? What's the timeline for that?
I don't have that this falls in the rumor mill category.
Okay, so this is not confirmed yet.
Yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is, last time, they went after the Department of State big time, shutting down facilities, and they're shutting down lots of government facilities, or at least planning to, in the U.S. as well. Yeah. I guess, inevitably somebody might ask, Brian, do you think they'll implement in-country stamping to fix this problem? Like the pilot program from early 2024 or maybe late 2023?
Well, that requires bodies.
Yeah.
And they're getting rid of bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so this is the last one here. We're jumping to question AR11. This is an important one.
You got good history on this one, so go for it. Yeah.
So AR11 is the form that you have to complete when you change your address. And for as long as the law has been written, it's a misdemeanor for not completing the AR11 within 10 days of movement. Yeah. So now they're pursuing it aggressively. So if you have relocated, just go in and complete an AR11 online. There's an online system. Now it requires you to create an online account.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but
so they're hiding the AR11 behind a username and password. Before it wasn't, you just go in and you just click it and you enter your information, you submit, and you're done. Yeah. So if there's a change in your address, residential address, within 10 days, complete the AR11. It's not a very difficult requirement. It's a reasonable request. And they're saying they're going to prosecute people. I haven't seen anybody. We haven't seen anybody.
I've been doing my job for 14 years, as said earlier here, and I haven't come across one person who did it and got charged with a crime for it. I put it, just for reference, I put a link to the old USCIS change of address website in the chat down below. Speaking of the chat, Sam, I think it's that time that we take some questions, right?
Yes. So this is the time when we tell you we're going to do the best we can to answer questions. These are short questions that we have, and we will give you as much as we can based on very little information. So do not rely on this information. Consult with an attorney of your choice who is competent, that you trust, to advise you if you hear something from us that's really helpful to you in your case. No attorney-client relationship established because we are communicating electronically with you today. And let's take the first one.
Well, this is an easy one. This one's for me, Sam. I'm just going to bask in this one. Hello, Brian. Thank you for advice 2 weeks ago. I got my H-1B stamp successfully.
Okay. Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't remember this name. I can't help but wonder if it was somebody I talked to on the phone, because a lot of times people will just shoot me an email saying, Brian, you got any advice for H-1B stamping? But and I'll give an answer if I can, just some general advice to a general question.
Good job, Brian.
But I'll take it.
Yeah. All right.
Hopefully it's the hard one, Sam. Get the ball rolling for us.
Hi, guys. How long does it take to get an I-765 approved for a pending I-45? Mine, it's been 3 months pending. What do you think? 4 months, I think, is what I last time checked and saw. 4 to 4.5 months.
See, I thought it was like, it said it's like 7.5. Well, let's look. Yeah. Because I think the answer is going to be they're processed in multiple service centers. USCIS case processing time is what I want. So what I'm going to do for your benefit, Ignacio, is I'm going to one, post a link to the, I'm posting tons of things in the chat. A link to the USCIS processing times, where you can look up what type of case you're filing and see how long it's going to take. But let's look it up right here.
He's probably capable of doing that. He's trying to find out what we're finding in our office, but go ahead and do it, Brian.
So let me see here. So it depends upon the category. This is I-45, so I got to look it up here. It's a C9.
I-45, I'm assuming employment-based.
There it is, pending 45. And so it depends upon the service center.
So 6 months.
6 months in California. This is always the fun part, seeing the variation. 4 months in the NBC, Nebraska. 5.5 months, Nebraska,
Texas is the worst one, obviously, always. 6.5 months. They got better.
Yeah, these are a little bit better than I was thinking. Vermont, 8 months at the worst.
So 4 to 8 months.
Yeah.
On the side. So your 3 months is too early.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if you got it early. Again, these are what they say they get to 80% of cases on, but I get surprised sometimes, I guess.
Yeah.
Gonna keep on going here, and thanks for doing this. And the answer is, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Our pleasure. My EB1 final action date is about 6 months out. All right, sounds good. Hang in there, EB1. My adjustment status linked EAD expires in 2030, and my L1 expires in 2027. Do I need to sign up for an H-1B lottery? Only if you have $215 to waste. Well, not you, your employer.
It doesn't hurt.
2027, 2026. Yeah, heck yeah. I'll put in a lottery for right now and decide later. It does not hurt. I agree.
Yeah.
It's only $215 by your employer.
We have sort of looked into this. How much does the visa bulletin seem to move right now? It moves, for a year. It seems to move 6 months. So it's not crazy to do that.
So you're going to be in 2026, and then you'll be nervous. Start getting nervous. You are in the lottery. You get approved in the lottery, but I will be interested to see how much H-1B time he has left with the L1.
Well, when I think about L1, I think about managers, though. I wonder if your management position is capable of being on an H-1B visa, especially with the...
Well, we can assume that it is, and since he hasn't approved I-140, he probably...
Yeah,
now, the question is he subject to the 6-year limitation on day one?
Which six-year limit?
Because he's used up probably all his L1 time.
Yeah, but he'd had approved I-140. They can extend beyond 6 years. Yeah.
From day one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. I mean, you have plenty of time left. Ooh, 7 years. Oh, 7 years. I see 7 years on L versus 6 on H. Yeah.
That's fine if he hasn't approved I-140.
Yeah.
The 6 limit is removed, so you can start right away.
We went into a very granular conversation about the answer is
yes, apply for the lottery.
If you're working with an employment-based immigration attorney, they should be talking to you about this, and have that conversation for sure.
Yeah. But there's some nuances, but I think we're comfortable that you can, and the answer is yes, we recommend it.
Yeah.
Next one.
A Kumar.
Kumar, if you have an H-1B EB2 with an I-140 approved, and I join a new organization at post like director, can they file EB1 for me? So a quick review of what an EB1 is.
It's 3 things.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So there's 3 types of EB1s. One is extraordinary ability, EB1A. The second category is EB1B, which is, I believe it's outstanding professors and researchers is what they call it. Correct. And then there's EB1C, which is international
outstanding multinational executive.
Multinational executives manager, I think is what they call it, right? So the answer is if you qualify for EB1A, but I'm not sure that's what you're thinking about.
Typically, it's a self-petition.
Yeah.
And you're not a researcher or professor, sounds like to me, you're a director. So EB1B is out. And EB1C is really for people who are on L visa.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they're looking for. So I would say that just because you get hired as a director does not change the dynamics of EB1. And we're doing EB1 consultations still this month, early in the month. So we're doing EB1 consultations at no cost right now. If you can drop us into the consultation box in our website, you may be able to get at immigrationvisaattorney.com. You may be able to get a no-cost evaluation, so that can give you a little bit better direction. So we do this until we get about 10 or 15 of these, and then we stop for the month, and we do it again every month.
Yeah.
So next question.
All right. I want to elaborate more. Can I elaborate more?
Yeah, please.
So I think when he says position like a director, he's thinking about EB1C, internet multinational managers and directors. And I think the thing that A. Kumar needs to understand is that, as you mentioned, it's really kind of intended for L1 people, because EB1C requires you to have worked for that organization for 1 year or more in a managerial or executive role outside the United States.
Outside the US.
And that's where I think you might sort of burst your bubble there on that, unfortunately. Okay. For Sanfax, Hello, Sam and Brian. What are your thoughts on April visa bulletin released today? Is it possible for an applicant to request a downgrade from EB2 to EB3 to get a favorable final action date? Yes.
You missed the fun early in the presentation, Sanfax, but to answer the question, of course you can do it. It's a 2 months difference, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And sure, the question is, are you going to get any response in 2 months?
Yeah,
but you know, it's 2 months different doesn't mean too much in time. Too much difference could be half a year in time.
I would make, here's the pitch I would make. If Sanfax wanted to be convinced, here's the pitch I would make. Well, your priority date's current when your priority date's current in any category, you want to kind of find a way to rattle their cage and let them know about it. So if you downgrade to EB3, you do a transfer underlying basis, for example, you're going to be sending something to them to rattle their cage. And, well, there you go. You're going to be sending something to them. I would recommend something for them when your EB2 becomes current to get their attention. So why not do it for EB3 and get yourself there now?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Sneha Mehta.
Hi, Brian and Sign. Can I leave U.S. after filing naturalization application and giving fingerprints and then come back for oath ceremony? Please confirm. Thank you. Yes and maybe. So, remember, the rules to become naturalized U.S. citizen, you have to have a certain physical presence in the United States during the last 5 years if you're applying not based on marriage, because marriage waves it down to 3 years.
Yeah.
Within the 5 years, you are allowed to, you must be here in the United States for 2.5 years out of the 5 years.
Half the time, yeah.
And then you must not be outside the United States for more than 6 months at any given one time. Now, if you are so far removed from these limitations, meaning that you have 4 years or 4.5 years in the U.S. and you've never been outside the United States for more than 6 months, then the answer is yes, you can, keeping in mind these limitations. If you're close, you don't want to cross that, because if you flip it, you're not going to get naturalized. Because once you get the application approved by USCIS, you leave the country, and then they call you for the naturalization ceremony. Guess what they do before they hand you the naturalization certificate?
Hey, man, hey there, my friend. You've been doing any traveling since we filed this case?
You go through a mini interview.
Yeah.
You go through a 5-minute interview.
Yeah, it's on the back of the notice. Yeah.
Yeah. They hand you a form. Have you been outside the United States? You're gonna have to say yes. No problem.
Yeah.
How long have you been outside the United States? You have to give the date you're out, the date you're back in. They go back to the form on the spot, and they look at how long you've been outside the United States total, and does that change the 2.5 years and the 6 months rule? If it does not, they say, congratulations, go into the courtroom and wait in line. If it does, they cannot make you naturalized U.S. citizen. So the answer is, of course you can leave. Just be aware.
Yeah, they vet you up for citizenship. That's just the coolest. They vet you up until the last minute. You know, if
also they check for criminal.
Yep.
Anything criminal that happened between the 2 periods. You know, they want to ask you those questions just to make sure everything.
Yeah, I've consulted with people. It's I was between my interview and my oath ceremony, and I had a serious thing, and the answer was, well, your process is likely shut down, and there you go. Sort of a repeat question there. There's some things I posted. From Ramar, is there any way to expedite I-485 processing? Per the March 2045 visa bulletin, EB2 party date is now current for me and is pending more than 2 years after visa retrogression. So,
wow.
So he's current again after a whole long period of retrogression. Can you expedite I-485 processing?
There's no expedite. There's no expedite for an I-485 processing, but there's...
Well, technically there is, but fat chance of getting it, right? Yeah.
Well, they're not going to grant it because you have to meet certain requirements. Yeah. But just the fact that you've been waiting forever or that you've been current more than one time before is not ground for an expedite.
Yeah.
So that does not exist. The answer is you can become a nuisance and annoy them with emails and texts and calling and writing letters. After letters, and then eventually they will move your file. Yeah. And that is the best method to move it, really. Yeah. But would this person be eligible to file a mandamus, or is it worth it?
No. I think the government's response in court is, hey, we weren't eligible to approve a visa for you for 2 years, my friend.
Yeah.
That's sort of that. Give us a minute.
So when would you file a suit in a case like this? 18 months,
Yeah, I mean,
12 months.
I think you go into the. It's not crazy to start talking like six months. But I'm
Really,
more happy.
not even 6 months, because the recommendation by Congress is to process the case within 180 days.
Yeah, which is meaning I'm happy if you go beyond 180 days. I'm going to start saying, well, it's not crazy to do.
Talk about it. Okay, good answer.
I mean, the bottom line is usually these people, usually they get to you within a couple months of your priority date being current, which is really lousy. People always have the impression that as soon as my date comes up, they're going to approve my green card. Sometimes it happens, but usually the more likely is, my priority date became current, and they're just going to slowly pull my case out and put it in a queue to eventually be reviewed by the officer that will maybe possibly make a decision on my case, maybe issue an RFE.
Yes. All right. From Raja Rohit, I think. Rajapur Rohit.
I'm going to go on by what I think is the first name, Chandrakant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go by Rajapur Rohit.
Okay.
Well, together we'll get the name.
Chandrakant.
Rajapur Rohit.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello, sir. My wife is on H-1B and filed an H-4 and H-4 EAD. Okay, for him. On her. My wife is on H-1B and filed an H-4 and H-4 EAD for her, and it's still pending. Okay. Is she plans to switch employers on H-1B? Will that change employer H-1B? Will affect his H-4 and H-4 EAD application? And the answer is, you file a transfer for an H-1B, the spouse H-4 and H-4 EAD will not be impacted, as long as there's continuity.
I'm not sure. See, you're presuming that it's his wife on H-1B and filing an H-4 and EAD for this individual Chandrakant who's asking, right?
Well, it's not clear, so I'm assuming one is on H-1B, the other one is on H-4,
so
pending
that's
H-4 EAD, so I'm not getting into that.
Okay.
To make it simple.
Well, I'm going to, classic Brian stuff, I am going to complicate it a little bit. So I'm reading this as wife on H-1B, right? Then she filed an H-4 and EAD to get on H-4 EAD. Apparently, I'm presuming that Chandrakant is on H-1B as well then, right? And then while that H-4 and EAD is pending,
I think your reading is better than my reading.
But it's a crazy scenario. Your scenario is the more likely scenario, but mine it reads more like mine. So basically,
but it's the same answer.
She's on H-1B, then it files an H-4 and EAD, then another H-1B transfer is filed for this person who's already on H-1B.
But that doesn't change the answer.
Doesn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, what's your answer again? Repeat it for me.
No, that's a good point. But the answer is, you have an H-4 and H-4 EAD for one person that's pending.
Yep.
And you have the principal has an H-1B, and that principal who has an H-1B is changing employers.
Yeah, I'm still interpreting differently than you. So your scenario, I agree with you. The H-1B going from employer to employer shouldn't affect the pending H-4 and EAD.
Yeah.
But the way the question is written is his wife is on H-1B, right? And then filed an H-4 and EAD for her.
Fine.
To change from her existing H-1B to H-4, right?
Yeah.
And then he's asking if she plans to switch employers on H-1B, meaning another H-1B filing for her. So while she has an H-4 EAD change of status pending, can she change H-1B employers? Okay.
So I like your scenario.
I don't like my scenario because it's a weird and strange one, but that's how I'm choosing to read the.
So let's answer it that way.
Yeah.
Let's answer it that way. So if you filed an H-4 and H-1B change of status, and then change your mind, and you want to now do a change employer.
Yeah.
Okay. I think so. The answer to that will be that if you timely file an H-1B, it's effective immediately because you got portability.
Yep.
You can start working for the new employer, and then you can withdraw.
Yeah, presuming you still have H-1B status, she's still invalid H-1B status. Yeah.
And now, let's take it next level.
Yeah.
Let's assume that she was at home for a while and filed for an H-4, H-1B, and now she gets a job. As this H-4 is pending.
But the old H-1B is expired, right?
It's not expired, but his status expired and
I see. Okay. Yeah, no longer maintaining status. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's an I-94, but it's not working. She's at home.
Yeah.
She lost her job.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So what's the answer in that scenario? And I think there is an A and B answer. Are you within the 60-day grace period?
Yeah.
Are you outside the 60-day grace period? So if you're within the 60-day grace period, you could file for a change of status and withdraw the H-4, H-1B. And if you're outside the 60-day grace period,
Yeah.
then
You
you
need to file an H-1B with premium processing, and you can't start working until the H-1B is approved.
and the H4 and EAD are approved.
Yeah. You need everything. So this is where
I think we've answered the questions.
This is where I make the pitch for. You should really talk to an attorney about it. If it's a complicated scenario like I think it is, you should really talk to somebody.
Well, but I have to commend him because I think he wrote a good question that you've picked up. I have to commend you. You've picked up on it in 2 lines, which is very hard to do. So kudos to both of you guys.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
So, have 485 interviews increased from your experience, or are most still interview free? Well,
I haven't seen any change yet.
I have, a note on my desk to remind me that I have to send people some, quotes for, bring attorney Brian with you to a family-based green card interview. But
well, those are 100%.
Yeah, for employment-based, no, I don't think I've.
Not yet.
I don't think I've. Yeah.
But the part of the problem is everything's so retrogressed.
Yeah.
And the movement is so slow. And I don't think it's been on the radar yet in terms of any change.
Yeah.
So we will see that I'd say, give it another 5-6 months.
Yeah. I mean, what's always sort of on my mental back burner is like, are they going to do it? Where everybody gets interviewed again? And my answer is, well, give it another 5 or 6 months, and we'll see.
We will know. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of MG saying asking EB interviews as this initial step can further increase processing time if applied consistently for all applications, and I agree.
Well, so you got 2 things going on here. Is tension.
Yeah.
The idea of cutting down on workforce, although I don't think immigration is part of it.
Yeah.
And the idea of all this executive order to catch bad guys or their shadows, even if they don't exist, arrest the shadows. Yeah. So you may have that happening, unfortunately. All right, jumping to the next one.
Well, Sam, there's Mr. I just want to sort of, I tend to interpret these questions, in a very literal way, but Ignacio was, what are we seeing? I don't think I have any more mental data for the National Benefits Center, but the bottom line is I'm kind of seeing them all over the place. Like, I've been surprised to see people get, EADs in like 2 months, and then, people tell me saying, well, I'm waiting for 5 or 6. It's sort of hard to guess.
As we fly through our days and hand all these receipt notices, approvals, for example, I just got a adjustment EAD approval for a family case, in less than a month.
I got a crazy one for you. I-130 filing for U.S. citizens sponsoring a spouse, approved in a month and a half.
Yeah.
Lisa and Francie, our paralegals in our office, came up to me and said, Brian, this got approved. And I said, no, I don't believe you. And I mean, I believe them, but I had to check it myself because I was expecting to see a reopen notice or something, like they made an error or something. Nope, he's on national benefits, NBC processing now.
So there is, I had speaking of what we're seeing, so I had a case, a complicated naturalization case. It shouldn't be complicated, but they make it complicated. There has a factual twist to it.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Okay, factual twist to it. So they sat on it. And the client came in and said, we can take it to court or we can give them a little bit more time. And they called for an interview. Mm-hmm. And it was a tough second interview. I was there. I pitched my pitch. I yelled at all of them for wasting our time, because they were wasting our time. And I think I'm old enough to be able to do these things, Brian, now. I get the privilege of telling, because they're all younger than me, and I just tell them, what are you guys doing? This is a simple case. Spend your time on cases. So they're shocked that I talk to them that way, but they deserve it in goodwill. I talk to them in good, and they approved it, which is...
Oh, good. I remember hearing, today or the weekend?
A few weeks ago it was approved,
Good.
It was approved, so client happy. But so they're moving. I think there's a little bit of fear if everybody's doing their job.
Wanting to be I'm an efficient employee. Don't fire me, new government heads.
Yeah, when you guys come in, my desk will be clean. I'm doing everything.
Yeah, and I'll be asking for more work because everybody else is a bunch of lazy bones. But
and I can show numbers how many cases I did.
Yeah, I mean that's the but I don't try to apply logic to how USCIS processes cases because, you know, if you predict yours is going to be slow, that's when it moves fast, and vice versa. You know?
So I mean, at least on the I see some. There's always a the half full look at any scenario.
Yeah.
All right.
Got a couple questions here. I think we have the time to you know hit.
Yeah.
So MG I think asked that maybe was asking about earlier about this.
If I left my L expire and stay on 485 EAD, is that not recommended, especially since I am hoping for EB1 move 6 months in 5 years? I wouldn't say it's not recommended, but I always believe in a spare tire mentality.
Yeah.
You know, it's a safety net for you having an L and then or applying for an H1B, be able to change to H1B. The problem with 485 only, not frequently, but we get some erroneous denials.
Yeah.
And then we have to fight it back.
It's scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you really don't have a safety net. Now, again, it is not frequent, but at the same time, why do you buy an insurance for your car? Why do you buy an insurance for your house?
Yeah.
When the likelihood of any damage to your house probably significantly less than 485 being denied. Significantly less.
Yeah.
But you pay thousands of dollars year in and year out to maintain that insurance. Think about it, that is an insurance for you to be on status.
Yeah, I basically tell we get asked this question a fair amount, and I'd say, you know, you're not crazy if you make the decision to, you know, abandon non-immigrant status and just rely upon the, you know, it's just, but it's, I always try to give that conservative advice. It doesn't really cost you that much to keep it going.
Before we go to the next question, we got more people on this YouTube. Go ahead and show them immigrationquestions.us and explain to them, because people sometimes miss at the beginning of the session.
Above our head is going to appear immigrationquestions.us.
So those who, this website, we own that website. It's our website. If you go there and drop your questions during the week, we will bring them to you at the very beginning of our YouTube session. Why are we encouraging you to do that? It allows us to read them in advance and do a better job. So you drop them during the week. This will be the very first thing will be answered before we go into the topics. Immigrationquestions.us. Drop your questions there. Also, you're welcome to come in and listen and drop your questions live, and we will answer them live as well to give you just options.
I like this though, Sam. It's really fun to point to a little bar
right here.
Yeah, it's nice to have a prop. It's fun. It puts a smile on my face when we see ourselves on a video delay, and every time I see myself pointing at it, I don't know. It's just fun for me.
All right. Last but not least.
Okay. Let's see here. From Jigar Tolia. Do you see any issues traveling on approved AP?
Short answer, no. Expect more delays.
Yep.
Expect more delays. Expect to be scrutinized more, because certain advanced parole have been canceled because the programs under which these were issued were canceled by the president. These are not employment-based advanced paroles, but the inspections do not know the difference, so they have to take it to secondary. They have to go through the list and make sure. So there's no concern, but expect more delays.
Yeah.
Next one, Brian.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Ahmed Hamad. Can I get unemployment benefit without impacting because I was on H-1B but terminated and I have EAD and advanced parole on the 485 self-sponsored national interest waiver? So it's a complicated question. But you have paid into that unemployment program. You have paid into it, and you have paid a lot of taxes that you will not see that money probably, maybe if you become a permanent resident, you will. And hopefully you will soon become a permanent resident. However, from a public charge standpoint, there is a time, the first few weeks, maybe the 8 weeks, I don't remember, it depends on the state. The money that being used is the money you put in. Then you cross over into money that's supplied by the federal government. And that can potentially cause an issue, Brian.
Yeah.
I don't want you to receive money from the federal government because that can trigger...
Money you haven't paid in, essentially, is the concern there.
Yeah. So So you need to go into the state requirements, understand what part of and how many weeks are they using your funds that you put in, or the employer funds, and then how many weeks beyond which it's going to be using federal funds, and you don't want to get into that aspect of it.
So it's sort of a triumvirate of questions from our last gentleman here, Ahmed. If I traveled before the advance parole document was produced, but after its approval date, and now I have it in hand because it was shipped to me by a family member, can I use it to re-enter the United States? So he's maybe kind of dallying with the policy of, hey, if you travel while your AP is pending, we're going to deny it. And it sounds like basically it was approved, not yet produced, and then he left like in that little window there. And
well, you have it in hand.
Per its face, it's a valid travel document.
But you have definitely put yourself in a predicament.
Yeah.
Because good luck making that argument. Yeah. As you're trying to go back in the U.S.
As they have you by the scruff putting you on an airplane. No, but you see, I traveled after it was approved. Is not. Yeah.
Well, but I hope that does not happen to Hamad. But yeah, you put yourself in a predicament. To be honest with you, I mean, you're right there in the gray area, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they accepted that document, but.
Most likely you'll be surprised. You will be accepted. You're taking a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the maximum stay on advanced parole outside the United States? Well, you have a validity period of that advanced parole.
Sure.
So that is the maximum, but is that the maximum safe? Just like your tires, rated to 50 psi, but you don't put over 26 psi in it because you're taking a chance.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. You got a maximum, but is it advisable to go to the maximum?
I got thoughts about that. If you're spending years outside the United States with a pending I-485, I'm going to worry about do you have an offer of employment readily available to you, which you could be need on 87 days notice, because you can send an RFE saying, hey, my man, give me a supplement J, and if you can't produce that, they'll deny the I-485 for you right there,
So what's your comfort level?
As much as is necessary, but don't treat it.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
So reasonable period to do what you need to do outside the country comfortably.
Yeah.
So if you have to stay an extended period of time because there's litigation or there's inheritance, there's a land dispute, or there's a sickness in the family, and you had to stay longer, you can definitely explain that, and that would be respected. But if you're just going there because you're hanging in there and you have not good explanation, I think they can be less sympathetic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll occasionally come to you, Sam, and I'll say, oh, technically, and if the government doesn't like the situation, sometimes they can find a way to cause problems for you. And I don't want to put my client in a real interesting scenario, one that really makes their chin scratch, because I don't want anybody. There's my old joke is, it sounds like a really great appeal. I don't want anybody to be in that situation. I want my clients' cases to look just like the last one they approved, and the next one they're gonna approve whenever possible, of course. And I try to help them, stay that path.
I agree.
Yeah.
With that, we finished today's session. Remember, immigrationquestions.us, drop them during the week, and you will get them answered first on our YouTube session.